Welcome to Charter Local Edition. I'm Tracy Young. As of the end of the third quarter, the number of Americans who are unemployed has risen by 7.6 million since the recession officially began in December of 2007. Joining us to talk about the steps that Congress is taking to create jobs is Congressman David Dreier, who represents the 26th District. Nice to see you, sir.
Always good to be with you,
Thank
Tracy,
you.
in this great new spot of yours, especially.
Yeah, we're proud of it. Thanks for
Yeah,
noticing. We
that's great.
appreciate that. I was an econ major, and I can't help but look back and
That
say...
explains a lot.
It
You're an
says
econ
a lot
major,
about me.
yes, yeah.
When I think about 7.6 million people being out of work, basically in roughly about a 1.5-year time period, I can't help but wonder, how are these people surviving?
It's very difficult. We in California traditionally have not suffered the way the Steel Belt and other parts of our nation have suffered
happening in Michigan,
decades.
for example?
Well,
right.
we in the past, Tracy, have not suffered, but now, in many ways, we're suffering worse than so many other states are, with a statewide unemployment rate that is in excess of 12%. Parts of the areas that I represent, the Inland Empire, up to 13, 14%.
Right.
It is really difficult, and that's why getting our economy back on track needs to be priority number one. My personal view is that we should have a bipartisan approach on this, and I think we should be using the best of John F. Kennedy, what he did in the 1960s,
cut taxes,
and Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. They both did the same thing. A Democratic president, a great Democratic president, John F. Kennedy, and from my perspective, a great Republican president, Ronald Reagan. They saw down economies, and what is it they did? They had broad, across-the-board, marginal tax rate reduction to stimulate investment and productivity, creativity, which is something California is so well known for having. And what is it that happened? In the 1960s, when President Kennedy did this, we saw a doubling of the flow of revenues to the federal treasury because of the growth that took place.
Tax rates were cut, but tax revenues increased.
But revenues went way up. They doubled during the 1960s.
So why are we not taking that approach this time?
I hate to be too overly partisan, but unfortunately what we're following is the model that Franklin Delano Roosevelt put into place in the 1930s. And his Treasury Secretary, a guy called Henry Morgenthau, after 7 years of the administration, said the following before the House Ways and Means Committee in 1939. He said, "We've tried spending money. We've spent more money than we've ever spent before. Now, after 7 years of this Roosevelt administration, we have an unemployment rate that's just as high as when we started, and an enormous debt to boot." Quote, unquote. That's what he said. And so I think that Franklin Roosevelt was great for many things. He was Ronald Reagan's hero. But I don't believe that the economic model of dramatically increasing the size and scope and reach of government, when we should be encouraging small businesses and the private sector.
So is Congress doing anything right now to create jobs?
There are
with
some
that kind
things.
of specificity?
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm pleased that we've been able to extend unemployment benefits. That's something that I think needs to be done. You talked about the pain that people have had.
But if jobs don't come back till 2012, like a lot of economists say, can we extend them for another 2 years?
Well, that's the thing that is so frightening. I mean, you know, I've been a supporter of welfare reform. I don't believe we should incentivize people to not work. We need to make sure that people, you know, we worked in the 90s to turn welfare offices into job placement offices, which is what they should be.
Under a Democratic administration.
Yes, and what we needed to do is we need to bring back the dignity of jobs for a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are hurting. I mean, we have people losing their homes, their businesses, and it's devastating and horrible. I think following that John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan model would do the best to get us back on track.
Anything concrete that you can offer us right now?
Well, I mean, I've introduced the Fair and Simple Tax Plan on the opening day of this Congress, which would take the overly complex code, cut the 6 rates down to 3, and make it much easier to operate.
But we still need to create jobs.
We do. Well, and that's going to be a part of the way to make it happen.
All righty. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thanks, Tracy.
For Charter Local Edition, I'm Tracy Young. Now back to CNN, HLN.